Here we are, boys and girls, and use number 593, it looks like, for the Nacet made by Gillette. Midnight Stag from Chiseled Face is the soap, splash, and cologne for today's shave. It takes me a long time to go through soap. Just doesn't take too much soap to get the job done. We recently figured out with a scoop shave that maybe about 1/8 of a teaspoon of this soap is plenty enough to give a nice amount of lather for several passes. Maybe just a touch more than 1/8, but honestly, maybe just 1/8. The Semogue Owners Club Taj handle here is the brush of choice this month. I'm going to get it back in the water. Stainless steel version of the timeless 68 gap open comb razor. And there's the Nacet blade. I did not really have time today to put together a fun little kind of demo or fact to talk about with you guys about shaving like I have the last few times. So we will just focus on a fast Slurry Lather shave. I've done bowl lathering the last 2 days, and one with scooping, one with loading right from the tub. And so today we're going to switch back to face lathering, not the conventional face lathering that you see a lot of guys do right now, but one that starts out with a brush full of water. I was going to say buttload, but that's an older term for my generation. And then we will, which starts out with so much water in the brush, and then we put a little soap in the brush, on the brush tips, and we start working that into our face. So here we go. I'm going to get my face wet. Let's, with the brush load, we learned that 15 swirls was way too much. Why don't we try 10 swirls with the Slurry Lather method? You may find that if you hold your brush horizontal, it doesn't drip quite as readily. And then if you do like a 45-degree angle with the handle, see, sometimes it doesn't drip as much when you do this too. But this will often make it drip. And sometimes that's how you want to measure the water that's in the brush. You can pick your way, but in terms of standing water, this one will get all that standing water out, and you're only left with what the brush is actually, with that capillary action holding inside the brush. But this is still probably a little too much water. It'll all probably dump out right away. So a couple of shakes is probably good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I believe my friend Robbie asked what I do to the surface of the soap. Well, I don't really do anything. I make sure the threads on the outside are clear. If there's a lot of froth and suds on there, I'll just turn it upside down and rinse there. But you see those bubbles that are on the top of the soap right now? I'm fine with that. You can see the moisture that's on the soap. I'm fine with that. If you were to put this under the tap and rinse it, then it would just generate more soap and waste. The water would call out more soap from the solid puck there. And then that would just waste soap, and then you'd be right back where you started with seeing some bubbles here. Some people like to wipe it out or something, but I don't really see any point in that. I've just used a clean brush on it already. This soap environment is very inhospitable to mold and bacteria, and so I just don't think there's anything to worry about. But you let your own level of worriness, your own level of OCD determine what you do. But as for me, I just let it sit open during the shave, and then at the end I cap it up. And that lets a little bit of the water evaporate. But I want to protect the scent strength, because I don't want to end up with a soap a couple years later that has lost its juice. So that's my priority. So your priorities may call you to a different kind of response. All right, so now you don't see a lot of lather on those tips. There you go. You're generating it right now. I kept it light. I didn't press very hard right away. That held a little bit more water in the brush there, and that's what I wanted. Didn't make it dump out quite as much. And that's all it takes for pass number one. A little splash of water. Kind of washes off the excess, but it's still, and it mainly refreshes the face, so that it, if it dries out during your shave, because you may take longer than me to do a pass, because maybe I've done this for a little bit longer than you guys. This little froth here, because the soap was on the tips, as best as I can tell, that puts that soap all on your skin, and then the water that's behind the tips really hydrates it. And then as you go, everything equalizes, and the soap starts to become a lather emulsion, and then starts to combine with the water that's behind it in the brush. And the lather gets more mature as you go. But the good news is, since we start with so much water, this is really a method that focuses on speed. Since you start with so much water, you are gifted with something that even in the very beginning stages is great for shaving. Super slick. A little splash of water now. Sometimes the lather doesn't feel super luxurious on your face when you're putting the brush, in this case with the slurry, but you know when it does, even with this fast method, when I do that little splash of water on my face, I can feel my skin conditioned with the soap's properties and the good things that were a part of the lather, that residual slickness. And that is a nice, pampery kind of feeling. And already here on the third pass, we have a pretty mature lather in the brush there. And yeah, so we did 10 swirls, and I've just loaded up the third pass, and I've still got probably 2 more passes of lather in the brush, especially if I wanted to squeeze what was in the knot out. So 10 is definitely the count for now. Probably do the same thing tomorrow. But as you can see, we did impart a little more water into the soap. That ends up softening up that top layer. Oh, hey, one little aspect we can talk about is blooming of soap. That is a practice by which you put a little water on top of your soap as a preparation for the shave. Some soap makers, like Saponificio Veracino, actually recommend that practice. Other makers, like Will at Barrister and Man, says that it's unnecessary and actually wasteful, and it kind of negatively affects the chemical makeup of the soap. Now, Saponificio Veracino makes hard soaps, and Will makes the cropes. And so maybe what he's warning us is specifically does not apply to hard soaps. But at any rate, most of us are using those cropes, and you don't need to bloom them. I mean, you can see what I'm doing. Just 10 swirls and I get plenty of lather. That's with a little bit of water buildup over time, like we've discussed. Without that, I think I was doing maybe 20 seconds of loading. If I just reach back into my inventory and grab a soap that hadn't been used in a long time, I think maybe 20 seconds of loading or so with that medium wet brush. Sorry, struggling with the hiccups right there. All right, we got that third pass done. So let me get a good rinse now, clean up my brush. Matter of fact, let's see what's left on the brush. The water that was kind of shooting around in the bowl got absorbed by the brush and put on during pass 2 and incorporated in the lather in pass 2 and 3. And yeah, that is plenty of lather. Look how gravity affects it. So it's nice and hydrated. A lightly creamy kind of texture. Doesn't, and yeah, that's leaving behind a little bit of very light viscosity, providing some good secondary slickness there. Some of the other more old school and cheaper bases, it'll look nice like this, but then when you move your thumb across your fingers or such, once that lather's wiped away, it's almost left with only water as at the contact point there. And so that slickness only exists when suds are around, and it doesn't kind of leave a layer on your skin. And that's not usually a good thing. This lather today is not like that. It's doing very well. All right, so I'm going to clean my brush now. See, it just doesn't take very long to do that kind of shave. Open up my razor, give it a good rinse and a shake. Put it aside. And now let's do the splash. Wish I was a morning shaver. I do smell the cologne on me the next morning and several hours into the day. So there's that. But I could enjoy it many more hours if I shaved in the morning. That's good. That's good. All right. I think we're ready. Shut her down for today. Thank you so much for the nice conversations and compliments during this month, and often for saying that you guys have picked up some things and learned some things on my channel. I really appreciate that. You guys are a valuable part of all this. Take care now. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.